Okay, good evening, everybody. Wow, what a crowd. Everybody, have everybody's attention, please. Anybody didn't get a door prize ticket? Raise your hand if you did not get a door prize ticket. You didn't get one, Larry. I know you didn't. Oh, did you? Okay. Anybody else didn't get a door prize ticket? Okay, well, in that case, we're good. We have in our presence, apparently they thought there was going to be trouble tonight because 4 of them came. So anyway, we have a good crowd here tonight, and I appreciate this. I would love to see this kind of turnout at every meeting and involvement in our community, because we usually have about 1/4 this many people at our meetings. And yes, I know we try to keep them interesting, we try to keep things moving, and we're working to do that even better. We're coming up, got a couple more meetings. Let's see, this is August, September and October. We have 2 more meetings before we take the break until January, and we're going to try to come up with some good topics for those meetings. Hopefully, as much as we love our police department, we hope it's not this topic, okay?
I will a little bit.
All right. So, just trying to clarify a little bit of our subjects tonight. Joseph Claypool is our, well, temporarily, are you still here? Still here, but not much longer, right?
Yes, sir.
He's gotten a promotion, so y'all can congratulate him. He can stay. Joe's climbing up the ladder, and we told him we better give us somebody as good as him, or we're going to come looking for him. We're going to find out where he's patrolling. We're going to take care of him. No.
There you go.
That wasn't a terroristic threat, by the way. Oh, he's adding to the stats there. All right, so Joseph is here to talk to you tonight mostly about general things in the neighborhood. He is going to touch on the Sergeant Hutchison briefly. He's not going to give you details and all that, but he'll touch on that. But the main purpose of tonight's meeting is to try to address concerns about crime in our community. And as you look at the stats, you're going to find out that our neighborhood is not going to hell in a handbasket, okay? You're going to see that, yes, we have some issues, and you guys a lot of you haven't been here before, so I'm going to repeat it. When you are a victim of crime, even if you're the only person in the neighborhood that was a victim of crime, you live in a high crime neighborhood, and I get that, okay? I understand that. I understand your concerns. I understand your fear. When we're not a victim of crime, we live in a low crime neighborhood. So a lot of that can, mentally play with you about the community you live in. The big thing that can make it safer, and I continue to preach this to everyone, is get to know your neighbors. If you know 5 of them, go meet 5 more and know 10. If you know 10, go meet 10 more and know 20. The more you know the people that live around you, we're a huge neighborhood. We got 1,486 homes in the neighborhood. We're never going to know, all of us are never going to know each other. But make an effort to know those around you and near you. That will make your area a safer place, because people will keep their eyes open and watching for things. So those are the 2 things that I want to preach to everyone, that's what I have preached nothing but that for probably 10 years now. Get to know your neighbors. That is the best way, and he'll probably back me up on this, to keep our neighborhood as safe as it is. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph. He's going to talk to you all a while. If you could kind of hold your questions till the end. He's going to answer questions. We are recording the meeting. We are going to upload it onto the website and email it out when we're done. If we're going to ask a question, we're going to try to he's going to repeat the question so that we have that on audio. We didn't have that the last time, and we had a lot of comments about that. We could hear the answers to the question, but we couldn't hear the question. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph, and appreciate you guys coming out, man. Really do. Thanks. Oh, yeah, Mike. Mike, get the mic from Mike.
There you go. Get the mic from Mike. So I'll put it right here. When we do get questions, I'll repeat the question so that way in the back you can hear it. Sir, in the very back, can you hear me? Perfect. So I'll try not to yell at you, but I want to speak loud enough so everybody can hear. Thank y'all for having me. I think I've met most of y'all in the room. Joseph Claypool, I'm the Community Affairs Officer. These guys do real police work. I do high fives and hugs. So one of my jobs is to come out and just talk and do PR and do some of the community events in the city. But before I get started, Lieutenant Golden, he is over your whole entire sector of the city. We have 4 lieutenants in patrol. He's over the whole entire sector of this city. And then underneath him, we have Sergeant Sloan and Sergeant Bearden. And then they have officers that actually patrol. And if there's a call to your residence or to your neighborhood, their guys would actually be the ones that respond. So we thought it was important and appropriate to have the leaders in your community here as well. So we will all...
Enough of the papers to pass out. We're going to get copies of that into your hands, either via email or on the website, one way or another in the next couple of days. So we apologize for that.
So I've already sent the stats that I have. Like Mike said, there's a little bit bigger crowd. I printed 30 copies, and that went really quickly, and that's what I anticipated usually from past meetings. But I did send it to Mike electronically, so whatever I have tonight, you'll have in your hands as soon as he sends it out. So I wanted to touch on first the elephant in the room, right? Sergeant Hutchison's case. I want to thank you, and I think all these officers, thank you for all the support that we got from Round Rock West. We truly, truly appreciate it. You can't drive down the street, or I was joking earlier, you can't drive around space without seeing some of the blue that shines in Round Rock West. So you guys truly supported law enforcement, got behind us, and there were some hard days, right? Not just for officers, but for spouses and for kids and for everybody in the city. So we appreciate Round Rock West, and we appreciate the rest of the city. Everybody came out. And so I'll touch on that briefly because there are questions about that, but I don't want to go into too much detail. There are things in the case, absolutely, where we interviewed kids. We interviewed his kids. We interviewed family. Those things, at the end of the day, does it really matter what they said about their dad or what somebody said about their brother? Those are all internal pieces. If you've dealt with the death of a son or a parent or had somebody in your family who commits suicide, there's nothing easy about it. I am proud of our command staff. If y'all watch the press conference, how many of y'all watched the press conference? Okay, y'all are engaged. So you know a lot. The media was very, very shocked at the amount of information that we gave out at the press conference. So if we had it, we gave it to you. And there was a lot of information released. Obviously not every single detail. So before I get started on this, is there something that somebody has about the case about Sergeant Hutchison without going into a lot of detail? I guess the most important thing is we don't have cop killers running around in Round Rock West, which, you know, that night, I'd be lying if I told you my wife was tossing and turning and we couldn't sleep, and there was sleepless nights for the officers. So we're just as happy about it as you are, but we are devastated with what occurred. So is there any questions on the table that we can answer about that? Yes, ma'am.
Well, it just seemed like a lot of time went by between here and the helicopter, go around, and by the time we were notified that we were under lockdown.
Okay.
So that was.
So we can do a little bit better with that. I think I can tell you there was a lot of moving pieces that night. So although sometimes we need to think about the residents probably a little bit quicker, we usually, the first thing on our mind is we're mission critical. We go after the problem. So that night we're like, we got cop killers on the street. We're putting on our tactical gear and we're full force until we find them. So maybe we could have done that a little bit faster. I can tell you.
I know Facebook helped a lot.
Facebook does help, and y'all have a good leader, Mike Freeman. He does not mind texting me in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning. If one of y'all ask him a question about what's going on in the neighborhood, he sends it straight to my text, and I always respond immediately. So, you know, if that's the case, you can. If I can tell you, I will tell you. And I've always, for those of you who've never been to a meeting before, one thing that I try to do is I will respond to you, and not just Mike, but any one of you as citizens. I'll respond to you within 24 hours. So you're not going to get that at most cities, and especially in bigger cities. But from your law enforcement to the citizens, I'll respond to you within 24 hours. If I can tell you, I will tell you. You may see an EMS and fire outside somebody's house. I'll just tell you as something as simple as, hey, you know what? It was a medical. There's no risk to you or the neighborhood. I won't go into detail about grandma had cancer and hospice was at the house and she passed away. Doesn't matter. The fact is it was a medical call and there's no risk to the neighborhood. And that's probably what I'll share with you. So I will tell you something about the call. Good question though, and we'll work on that. We'll try to send that information out a little bit quicker. This was kind of a unique situation. I think our mind was somewhere else, but we'll try to work on that for sure. Anybody else have? Yes, ma'am.
Why did it take so long to rule it as suicide?
Okay, so and that's a great question. Great. And that's a good, Mike, I don't mind. Repeat it. So, tell me your name, ma'am. Anna asked, why did it take so long to finish the investigation? So, guys, I can tell you I've worked for our chief almost 3 years. Look at him today in his bags. I've never seen him so bad. He ultimately had to get up there and make the call, and it wasn't just a Round Rock investigation, right? Unfortunately, it landed in our lap because it happened in our city. But we had the FBI, we had the Texas Rangers, we had JTTF, we had Travis County. It was a multi-agency investigation. And so until everybody was on the same page, we didn't want to say, well, Round Rock thinks this, but the Texas Rangers think that. So once everybody came on board and made the same decision, and the last thing that we wanted to do was say, oh, by the way, it's a suicide, but the medical examiner thinks it's not, or the Rangers found one person that they're still investigating that's from out of state that they're talking to or flying out to chat with. Oh, by the way, we found out this information. So it was really important that all the pieces in the puzzle showed a picture crystal clear before we investigated that, because it wasn't a Round Rock decision. It tied all the pieces together. So does that make sense? And so, and the only thing I can compare it to is up in Clear Lake or Fox Lake up in Illinois, wherever that town is. They had the same kind of situation, right, where an officer committed suicide. Their investigation before they ruled it as a suicide took about a year, right? So what we did in 2 weeks, it took them a year. So that's the only thing that I can compare it to when you start looking at times tables. And the situation was exactly the same, but it was very, very similar. So what they did in a year, our folks did in 2 weeks. So if that kind of gives you something.
Well, I asked you that because also it was said that you had a lot of leads also, and I don't know
So
how does that end up?
yeah. So what happened is people started giving more and more money to the reward, right? So we don't always get our lovely criminals calling into us. We usually find them, but when you start talking about money, you had people that said, oh, there's some money on the line. I think I have something that I might want to share, whether it's true or not. So we had to follow down every single trail to validate it or unvalidate it. So when there's money involved and there's criminals who say, you know what, I don't have a job, but $20,000 looks really good. Let me throw something out there and see if it sticks. So we have to take every one of those trails and go down until it reaches the dead end, and we say, you lied, or that was fabricated, or that doesn't provide any benefit. Does that make sense? Okay. Good question though. I mean, and those are questions that weren't answered before. Anybody have anything else on that? It's your neighborhood, right? Yeah, I think it affected you guys as much as anybody. So any other questions on that? So I'll jump right into the stats. So our planning and research team, if you don't have the stats in front of you, try to look on with somebody, but if not, I will ask any question or answer any question out loud. So the first thing is, Mike reached out to me and he said, you know, Joe, he goes, I think some of the citizens are worried about the crime in the neighborhood. And I think that conversation came as we were on the hunt for cop killers, right? Or for murderers in the neighborhood. And so for me, it's a relief that they did the press conference on Friday, because I think it put some of us at ease. But there is no secret that we've had some burglaries or thefts or however you frame it in this neighborhood. So, and I think it's because we compare things to past experiences. So last year, y'all had 2 BMVs, which is burglary of a motor vehicle. So what I did for Mike is I said, you know, stats are important, but we want to be able to look at a time frame. So we spent some time, our planning and research unit, and they pulled stats from 2011 all the way forward. Usually when I come in these meetings, I give you all a 3-month snapshot. And so we pull a lot of data to give you 3 months. Our team said, you know what, if it's important to y'all, it's important to us. We pulled the last 5 years, from 2011 all the way to now. So these, in my 10 plus years, I've never seen stats pulled for 5 years, and this detailed for a neighborhood. So we did spend some time pulling some stats. So when you start comparing things from this year, from last year, you had a burglary of a motor vehicle this year up until August, and this was pulled August 7th is when we pulled this stat. So 60% of the year has elapsed. Last year you had 2 burglaries of a motor vehicle, 2 BMVs. This year you have 10. And so 2014 you had 6. And then in 2013 you had 15, 12, 14, and 11 you had 11. 2011 you had 11. So I think that there's no doubt, hey, you know what? We have some vehicles broken into. Maybe that's because we had 2 last year and we're up to 10 this year. But like I tell folks that attend here regularly, majority of, if not all of those vehicles are unlocked vehicles. And I know there's some situations where you're going to have 1 or 2 that if they see something valuable inside or they want in that car bad enough, they're going to break the window. But criminals usually want to be unheard and unseen. They just want to lift that handle up and go inside. So I've told folks I'm not above begging. I will beg you, please lock your car. Please don't leave valuables inside. And I promise you, you will see this number go down. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, anything they want to add on that? Because sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts to have me stand up here and say, you know what, he's right. I had a piece of property stolen. I was victimized. They came onto my house in my car. They rummaged through my vehicle where my kids sit and my family drives, and they stole something personal to me, but the vehicle was unlocked. So help us help you, and please lock your vehicle, and you'll see that number decline, not just Round Rock West, but across the whole city. This is not a Round Rock West problem. This is a City of Round Rock problem. So we all own it. Oh, I said something bad. I just saw 3 hands fly up. It's all of our problems, but I'll start with you, ma'am, out of respect.
Yeah, I'm curious about the burglary residential.
Okay.
So they're getting in the home, how is that? Like, are the houses unlocked? Is there no alarm system, or what's happening with those?
So can I come right back to that in case there's a question? In case there's a question on the burglary of a motor vehicle, because I am coming. There's a stat on that.
Okay.
Because you're looking at that and people may not have it. Do y'all have questions on the burglary of a motor vehicle? Who said yes? Yes, sir.
One was, are these resolved? Are these ever closed out? Are these still open cases you never found anybody on them? You just took down the report and that's it? And then after that, is this children or adults? Is it gang related?
So
what other kind of stats are behind that?
So I would say yes, right? Because we know where there's gangs, there's drugs, there's violence, right? So piece of that piece, right?
It's not neighborhood kids just out bored at night.
No, sir. Oh, did everybody? Did y'all not hear it up here? I'm sorry. So I think. Oh, you need to get on video. Okay, for the folks who didn't come, who's sitting on your couch at home, we're going to repeat the question. No, so I'm going to make everybody else mad that's not here. So the question was: Are the burglary of a motor vehicle? Are they kids? Or is it gang related? Or are they adults? And are the crimes? Do they go solved or are they unsolved? And the answer for me to all that is yes. So because sometimes a juvenile, right, is 16 and under. So some of you may think 17 you're still a kid, but the law looks at it as 17 as you're an adult. So yes and no. Sometimes we find adults breaking into cars, although they're old enough to know better. Sometimes we find juveniles breaking into cars, old enough to know better. Sometimes they're self-admitted gang members that break into it because I-35, the major corridor that cuts down the middle of our city, there's no barrier that says, hey, if you're from Dallas, you can't drive into Round Rock, break into some cars overnight and drive back home, which we do have organized rings sometimes coming in to our city, violating us and then heading back to other cities. But the positive thing is we do catch those folks. Not every time do we. Not every time do we. Usually whenever we find a ring, we go after them and we end up solving multiple crimes. So I could break it down on how many we actually solve, but this is a perfect segue to your question about the burglary of residential houses. This neighborhood saw 7. And so just to kind of give you a perspective, on burglaries of a residential home, we had 0 in 2015, 2 in 2014, 6 in 2013, 12 and 12 and 7 and 11. So again, I think when you start comparing this year to last year, you had a goose egg for residential burglaries. And then this year you're like, wow, what is happening to Round Rock? We have 7. So, and I guess I should apologize. If you're the mom of the son that did this, I guess I'll apologize. But we caught the guy that was breaking into homes in Round Rock West. He's a juvenile. He lives in Round Rock West. So, you know, guys, Mike talks about get to know your neighborhoods. You know, if the parent's in here, I'm sorry. I'm sure that he's done the crime and he's paid the time and he's moved on. But it says something that sometimes, to answer your question, sir, we have folks that come in from other cities and come in. Sometimes they're right underneath our nose, and the own people sitting in this room, their kids are the one that are breaking into our house, because who knows the neighborhood better than anybody? The folks living here. So the good news is we caught him and we tied him to 5 other burglaries that he admitted to. So right away, out of the 7, with one person, we cleared up 5. Only because we couldn't get him to roll on some buddies and some other information. So to answer your question, yes and no. So the good thing is that your detectives are working very, very hard, and they're tying those pieces together. But if I can elaborate on what Mike said, please get to know your neighbors. I have a teenager, so please don't choke slam and throw every teenager, because some of them are good. But I do know that some of the kids roaming the neighborhood, there's probably no doubt that they're up to no good, but we have measures in place. How many of y'all know that we have a curfew ordinance in Round Rock? Okay, about 30% of you. If you are 16 and under, you cannot be out in the city after midnight on Sunday through Thursday, and you can't be out after 1 on Friday and Saturday. So most people don't know that. If you see a group of 8 14-year-olds or 8 kids walking down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, they're in violation of the law. Hopefully, y'all tell them to get home before we do, because I promise you our guys are going to check out on them and they want to know what they're doing, because they're actually in violation. So there's nothing wrong with calling in saying, you know what, something just doesn't seem right, it's suspicious. To take away from Homeland Security, their slogan is, if you see something, say something. And then to take away from our past chief Ryle, he always told us emergency is a state of mind. So what's an emergency to you may not be an emergency to me, may not be an emergency to somebody else. So it's important that if it's an emergency to you, call 911. If you see something, say something. You can call our non-emergency. It's not going to hurt our feelings to come out and check on something and then say, you know what, that was nothing. So does that answer your question a little bit on the burglars of residence, except you're wanting to know how are they getting in? On the young man that actually lives in your neighborhood, he was kicking in doors. So the last meeting I was here, I talked about, you know, it's important, and I don't want to talk y'all's ear off, but, you know, somebody knocks on your front door Monday. They come back and they knock on your front door at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. They knock on the front door Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Nothing, right? Now we've established a pattern. It's fair to say you own that home, you're paying for it because you're going to work during the day, right? So there's some measures that we can take in place. We can set our alarm, which we see very often, alarms people have in their house, but they don't set them. We're all guilty of that, right? Sometimes. There's also technology, and according to our policy, we're not supposed to endorse a company, but let me endorse something real quick. Doorbell.com, right? Something, and some of you have that, I know already. I don't want to ask who has it. Some of you already have doorbell.com. What happens is you go up to somebody's house, Mrs. Jones' house, ring the doorbell, and no answer. All of a sudden you hear on the microphone, it pops up, hey, how can I help you? Mrs. Jones, when it activated that doorbell, there's an app. It came to her phone. She can look down and say, hey, who's at my door? And then she can answer you remotely and say, what can I help you with? Hey, I'm just here to sell you an alarm system. I'm not interested. I'm sleeping. Thank you anyways. Does that salesman know that she's there, yes or no? Absolutely not. And maybe she's not, but that's all done remotely. So there's some things that we can do to prevent that. And then the other thing is just be eyes and ears for your neighbors. You guys know your neighbors better than we do. You know, we know we're one of the safest cities in the United States, but we don't take the credit for it all, because at night you may only have 30 eyeballs roaming the streets of the entire street of Round Rock. But if all of our city comes together, we have a couple 100,000 eyeballs patrolling the streets of Round Rock, and sometimes more during the day. So we need your help. So those are some of the things that we can do to mitigate the crime on residential burglary. Does that answer it in too much detail or enough?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can understand everything about stopping it, the crime to start with, locking doors, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything in particular that a person should keep in mind that would assist in actually solving the crime after it's been committed? What do you need to do? What steps do you need to take? What do you not need to do to destroy evidence and et cetera, that would actually help solve the crime?
I know y'all are thinking this guy was brought in by the police department to ask me the right question so I can give y'all the right answer. Not the case, I promise. He's not a paid actor. His question was, what can we do to help solve the crime, to help after it's happened, right? So let me give you an example. The easiest thing you can do, you go home tonight and you find your front door kicked in and your stuff is stolen. What are they going to go after first? They're usually going to go after the electronics because you can sell that quickly, right? So one of these officers or one of these sergeant's officers show up at their house and they're like, Mrs. Jones, we understand your computer was stolen and your TV was stolen and your iPad was stolen and your cell phone was stolen, and we understand that your kid's video game system was stolen. We're going to need the model and serial number off of each one of those so we can put it into the database so we can get this stuff back to you. And y'all shake y'all's head with your mouth open, and then you're like, that's a really good idea. So I can promise you, because we know it, because we go out, and it's no different than whenever a kid loses their bike. If you turn the bike over, it has a serial number on every single bike. But unfortunately, when we go to houses that have been broken into or robbed, or a kid gets their bike stolen, we ask for the model and serial number of something, and people say, I don't know. Well, help us help you. Go home tonight, and like I said, I have a 13-year-old, and he has a lot of energy, and so I make a game out of it. How many model and serial numbers can you write down in an hour, right? So make it a game. Do it whenever you're bored. Do it if family is over. Whatever it takes. But please go home and write that stuff down, because what happens is our officers will enter that into the Texas database. And when we make a traffic stop tonight on somebody who has a busted headlamp, yes, we're pulling them over because they have a busted headlamp. But 70% of citizens in Round Rock get a warning. The other 30% get tickets. So those 70% of warnings that we get, or even the other 30% that we pull over, it's not about the headlamp all the time. Sometimes it's about, what are you doing in Round Rock West when you live in Dallas? What do you mean you're only here for a couple hours? What do you mean you don't know anybody in the neighborhood? What do you mean the four of y'all don't have the same story, right? So we start talking to people, and we start developing leads. Next thing you know, we open the trunk, and there's 5 TVs and 4 Xboxes. We can run that through our database, call Mrs. Jones up and say, hey, we found your stuff on this organized crime ring that's out of Houston or Dallas or Austin, and we found your stuff. So does that answer your question? That is one small thing, but it's big in our eyes. And I promise you, our favorite phone call is to call a citizen and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, Round Rock Police Department, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Nothing, we got good news. We don't get to give a lot of good news, so if you could please label your stuff and we'll get it back to you, we'd appreciate it. Yes, sir.
And don't put it on the computer file.
Okay, yes. So we go out to our churches and we do security inspection for the churches, and we ask them to do the same thing. Unfortunately, one church had their building broken into and they stole the computer. He did a really good job of putting all the model and serial numbers on that computer of all his stuff. So, I mean, it goes without saying, but just be mindful of that, please. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to kind of comment on that. Some of the insurance companies these days are recommending that you just take a video tour walkthrough of your home.
Yes, ma'am.
If you do it with your iPhone, then it stores on the cloud. And so if anything does get stolen, you have a picture and video evidence of all your jewelry and how much it may be worth and that sort of thing, along with the visual serial numbers that you can write down after the fact.
That's absolutely right. So what she said in the back, she said insurance companies now are recommending that you walk around and videotape your whole entire house, and then you can record your model serial numbers and you can kind of elaborate and talk through it, and you can put it on your cloud. So even if your stuff is stolen, you can still access it immediately and help get your stuff back. Thank you. So with that, let me keep going down real quick because I don't want to keep you all here the whole night. So when you look at this, guys, because Mike told me I want to make sure that our residents in Round Rock West feel safe. And so when I pulled these out, when we pulled these stats, you're going to look at it and you're going to see the other category is fairly large. We broke it down. If you're not looking at this, we broke it down into a bar graph by the year. We broke it into a pie graph by the most offenses to the least. We really spent some time putting this together. But you're going to look at it and you're going to say, why is the other category fairly large? What is the other? What are they hiding? On the other, if it's not crime related, I pulled those numbers out. The sheet that I usually bring to y'all during meetings, the 3-month snapshot, that has everything in it. What I pulled out was accidents, right? I pulled out somebody lost something as they were walking down the road and they want to file a report because they lost their wallet on the ground. Pulled out the accidents. I pulled out the flag down that says, hey Officer Jones, I saw you all in the neighborhood. What's going on? I pulled out the stuff that's not necessarily crime related. What else? Let me go through here real quick. The other things, the thing that's actually, so our Intel manager, he actually pulled a few things out. So he said, I'll read it verbatim. He says, if activity continues as it has so far this year, Round Rock West is looking at about a 25% more offenses than 2015 by year's end. That's just a simple extension to a year's end using current data. This is very reflective, particularly with, this seems to be pretty reflective, particularly with respect to burglaries of what we're seeing elsewhere in the city. So I want you to know it's not just Round Rock West. Some other cities had the big goose egg last year, and they're having a few more this year. So it's not Round Rock West specific. It's everywhere. And guys, I not to take anything, and I've shared this story before, but for a little bit over 2 years, I worked at The Rock, which is the Round Rock Opportunity Center. Not every kid that goes to The Rock is bad, but if you don't know what it is, if you get expelled from any school in Round Rock, middle or high school, they send you to The Rock. That means you've gotten so many referrals and done so much bad stuff, they no longer want you on the campus. They send you to The Rock. It's the only school in the district that has metal detectors when you walk in the door and you have to wear a uniform. I worked there for 2 years, so I got to know the kids very well. And talking to them, they would say, hey, Officer Claypool, I know this guy, not me, but I know this guy that breaks into cars. And I said, well, tell me about this guy. And they would say, well, this guy can go to work and make $8 an hour and work all day long. And after taxes, he'll make $55, $60 a night. Or this guy can go out for a few hours, lift up door handles, pull out loose change from a car, make a couple $100s in a night. How many of y'all have $7, $8 sitting in your car and loose change? You really do. And if you can hit 60 or 70 cars in a night, pull out $7 or $8, you've made a week's worth of paycheck and really didn't have to break a sweat. So we would like to see these numbers go down, but we need help. We really do. So again, I'm not above begging, but I promise if we can get your support and your help, we'll see a decline on many of these numbers. Does anybody else have any other questions? The other thing that he said, as regards to the most frequent chart, and you'll see this, the first thing you're going to want to know is how death investigations popped up in 2015. In 2013, they had 5 death investigations, and 1 case was a traffic fatality. The rest were at home or accidental deaths. In 2015, there were 2 cases. None of these were suspicious in any of those cases. So, some things we can't control out of that. You'll see those numbers. But many of these things we can actually control ourselves. Anybody have any questions? And if you're not looking at it, it's going to be kind of hard. But gentlemen, give me one question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering if there's any area of Round Rock that is a particularly high crime area.
No.
In Round Rock City.
And so her question was, is there any part of Round Rock that's particularly high in crime? And I say no, because being the community affairs officer, every week, sometimes a couple times a day, I'll get phone calls from people from New York or Florida or Colorado moving here, and and they whisper on their phone, they're like, hey, Officer Claypool? Yes? They're like, what side of town is like where the officers don't live? And I tell them, we have officers living in every side of town. And I said, I'll tell you what, when you get here, if you find a homeless person, If you find an open-air drug sale, if you find a prostitute, if you find a group of gang members walking down the street within the first 30 minutes you get here, I'll buy you a steak dinner. But in turn, if you don't, in 30 minutes, you buy me a steak dinner. I can tell you something. I've never paid out on a steak dinner, but nobody's ever called me up to also pay me on my steak dinner. So to answer that question, the folks, there is no bad side of town. And, I think the people that have the greatest heartbeat of Round Rock, and that really, I think it owns and occupies a piece of their heart, is the city council members. I think we would all agree. The city council members are there to serve, and they represent all of us. You have more city council members, majority of them living on this side of town, than you do on the other. So to answer that question, why would you have the folks that are running the whole entire city on this side of town than the other? And I'm not saying that to say the other side of town is bad. I'm just saying there's a reason they built and bought their home over here. So that might help answer that question some. Gentlemen, yes sir? Yes sir.
Question is, what is your goal for response time when you get a call?
As fast as possible. And that's not a number, but the fire department, in order to meet insurance regulations, depending on how much your insurance fluctuates up or down, they have to be within a certain time. You're going to see many of these officers, because there's one fire engine and they don't move until they get called out. And I'm not making fun of the firefighters, but they go back to the station when a call comes, they get up, they get on their little red truck, and they come out. Our guys, sorry if y'all are firefighters, I'm just kidding. I am a little jealous. Yes, yeah, I'm a little jealous, but our guys, they're constantly on the street in every facet of the city. So somebody has a heart attack, some kind of CPR in progress. These guys right here, the officers, they're the ones that begin the mouth-to-mouth or pumping the chest, and then when the fire department or EMS get there, they're the ones that take over. So if it tells you something about how fast response time is, we're usually the first ones doing CPR, and then they show up and take over to relieve us. So we do get here very fast.
Do you have any statistics on how quick you get there?
I don't, but I could pull it for you, and it's even, there's nothing that we're afraid to share. Our chief says
20 minutes too long?
20 minutes is way too long. Well, it depends. Let me say on that. We're like a triage nurse. If any of y'all have ever been to a hospital, we're kind of like a triage nurse. You may show up and you may have an upset belly, and you may be the first in line. But if somebody else shows up with a severed artery or a cut finger, all of a sudden you, with your upset belly, get pushed to the back of the line, and we triage the person that came in. The same thing applies to calls. Your call may have been first in line, but if you have a family member that is hurt or injured or needs immediate care, it's important to us that we take care of them, and we know that our citizens understand having to wait a few extra minutes. So it just depends. 20 minutes is too long if we're sitting at the station doing nothing. So there's a story behind that. So,
in light of what's happened in Round Rock West, and before the conclusion of the investigation,
yes, sir.
There was a call of a suspicious character behind my house. I wasn't home at the time.
Yes, sir.
A neighbor called it in, and it took 20 minutes for the police to get there. And there was a video taken of the person in question, and the officers weren't interested in seeing the video.
So, did you reach out to me? Did you? So, I received a video that I passed up to Sergeant McDaniel about the same thing. Somebody took a video just in the last week or so that I pushed up the chain. But I can tell you guys that if we have we just recently had a fatality, right? And I'll use that as an example at the corner of University and Sandy Brook. That tied up almost every single resource in the city, right? And at the time, later on in the day, you watch the 6 o'clock news and it says fatality in Round Rock, and you're like, that makes sense. Now I know why I was stuck in traffic. The same thing applies. You may not know that there was a major incident because the news didn't report it. It wasn't worthy to them. But it may have tied up our resources where our hands were tied, where we didn't have a choice. So I can promise you, these officers, if you've ever called 911 in Round Rock, sometimes you're like, why is it that I never see anything, but all of a sudden they come out of the woodworks? Because we do have a pretty quick response time, and if we owe you an apology on that, I'm sorry, but I can tell you that our officers weren't sitting at the station doing nothing. They were on a call, or they would have been here. I can assure you of that. And if not, do me a favor. If not, we have something called open records request. You're welcome. He's going to give him, that's the lieutenant. We can find out. Everything for us, we're data driven. We can pull everything up by pulling it up on the computer. And you're always welcome to do an open records request. Our chief says if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to hide. And so we try to be transparent. And so if there's a miss, or if you want to dig further, you can do an open records request and have all that information readily available to you.
That's going to take you a while, though. If you call me, I'll...
Or if you know somebody, you can get it right away. There's your man. So, yes, sir. Right here. Yes, sir.
And it's sort of related to this. I'm just wondering how helpful security camera videos would be for you to solve crimes.
Oh my goodness. So, I don't want to have anybody raise your hand because I don't want to give up if you have cameras at your house. But some of you talk to Texas Rangers. Some of you talk to FBI agents. Some of you talk to Joint Terrorism Task Force agents. And I don't want you to raise your hand if you don't want to. But we canvassed this neighborhood up one side and down the other. And folks who sent us video, we watched it very carefully. And so if you have video, please, because you never know, is it going to capture that car or that person that we need? And we see that all the time in Austin, right? That there was some video that they got captured, but I promise you, there's probably at least one person in this room that talked to somebody from a federal agency that was involved in this case. Yes, sir.
You make mention that a fatality takes up a tremendous amount of resources.
Yes, sir.
Can you please explain to me why one drunk driver that runs into a telephone pole takes 18 cop cars to investigate it? Why?
So what you're seeing on that is we have something called the Nikon, which is an instrument that we use because we never get a chance to go back to that accident and do it over again. So we have a team that comes out and they basically shoot the whole entire scene. So we'll set this instrument, it's a Nikon, we'll set it down on one pivot point and we will shoot evidence. We'll shoot pieces of the roadway and we put the whole thing into a 3D image so that when we go to court, we know this person, their crash happened this way. So it takes time. When you're shooting a couple hundred points, it takes time to collect all that data. So on a regular accident, if you see 18, we failed, right? But on a major accident,
Well, I'm exaggerating.
yes,
You know
sir.
that.
Yes, sir. But on a major accident, if somebody dies or we think they're going to die, like they've been transported to the hospital, but it's even a possibility that they're going to die, we owe it to that person and their family to make sure that we do the best investigation, because once we leave, that evidence is gone. So, guys, I can tell you without being crude, we have people all the time, and these officers can attest to it, they're sitting in traffic for a couple hours, and when they get up there, they use 4-letter words and they wave with us with one finger, and then they find out later on that somebody died or was critically injured, and they feel bad. Because we all want to get where we're going quickly, but we've all been there when people are like, give me a break, what has taken so long? Oh, by the way, we got a body in the roadway. Or, oh, by the way, somebody just had a heart attack and wrecked into something. So, I mean, there's nothing that we're not going to tell you if you ask us, if we can. So, hope that answers your question. We just can't ever go back to the scene. Yes, sir.
I'd like to comment a little bit about that on when I took the Citizens Police Academy that JoJo put together. One of the things we learned, and it was almost I wouldn't say a compliment, but it's a good thing where we can afford that. We live in a safe city, right? So we can afford to have 2 or 3 cops at a scene versus one cop, you know, maybe down in Austin or other big cities where these guys are by themselves and don't have that luxury and stuff, right? So it's, you know, I'd like to say just thank you for that, right? You know, you're on any call, whatever, right? There's 3 or 4 cops, like, what the heck, you know, why are they all here? Well, because they can be, right? Because we live in a generally safe city and stuff, and so they're not, one guy's over there doing a burglary, another doing a you know, break-in or whatever, right? It's just, I like to see that personally, you know, just, but again, there's 3 or 4 of y'all there. One guy's like almost like we joke about a city job, right? One guy doing the work, the other guy standing around. Well, that's okay. I mean, it's a.
Well, we appreciate that, and I can tell you with some of the intel that we have, guys, we want to go home to our kids and our family. You're going to see extra officers on calls because some of the stuff that we're getting on the inside and y'all are seeing on the news with officers being ambushed and killed, we're going to take the extra effort, and hopefully that pendulum swings the other way. But right now, Yes, yes, yes. Every officer standing in front of you, to include me, every one of us have kids, so we want to go home to our kids. So you're going to see a little bit of extra folks on call. So bear with us on that until that pendulum swings a little bit, because we want to go home. So who else had something? Yes, sir.
I've talked in the past about a program where y'all come to the house and help to identify weak areas.
Yes, sir.
So you might mention that to the big group that we have today.
Yes, so we have something called basically like a security inspection. I talked about it, we did with the churches. And it usually, when something bad happens, all of a sudden I get a bunch of phone calls. Whenever we had the movie theaters and the shootings, movie theaters, I never heard from them my whole life. When that happened, they all called me. When we had the school incidences where kiddos were getting shot and killed, sometimes I didn't hear from the schools. They all called me. Same thing with the churches. Same thing with the houses. When you start getting broken into, people are like, what can I do to make my house safe? We will come out to your house and we'll do a security inspection. We're going to give you advice. We're going to tell you maybe this lock isn't good, or maybe having this window isn't here, maybe having this bush in this location is good or it's bad, or maybe you need to invest in cameras or doorbell.com. We're going to give you stuff. The fortunate part is that it costs money, but it might save you later on. So we're going to give you advice, but we understand everybody is struggling right now trying to make it. So the things that we give you, we don't want to reach into your pocket, but we can come out to your house and give you some security advice. All you have to do is, I like, Mike, when you send this out, for those folks who don't have my email, I can't ask you to trust me right now, but give me a chance to show you. When Mike sends out my email, shoot me an email and see if you get a response within 24 hours. So I will do my best to respond to you. I may not be the person, but I may send it to somebody else who can help you. Yes, sir.
Would that program for the house inspection be something that we could be given as a neighborhood group that we could then handle internally within our group?
Yeah. Do it one-on-one. I mean, I don't want to give up weaknesses on somebody else's unless you want like a generic, these are all the things that maybe we need to be looking for. Is that what you're looking for?
Just something generic, a program that we could implement as a neighborhood group.
I could absolutely do that. And it's actually a class.
That way we're not tying up y'all as a resource all the time, or it's more than one, was my thought on that.
So I can do better than that. The class that we go to is open to the public. So if somebody is willing to take that lead position, you can actually go to that course and become certified yourself, and then you can do it for your whole neighborhood. That would be cost efficient as taxpayers to have a citizen doing it as opposed to your law enforcement doing it. So Mike, if you remind me as well, I'll send that out, and if somebody wants to take the lead on that, kudos to you for saving everybody money. So any other questions? Guys, yes, sir. Oh.
Not a question, a statement.
Oh.
With everything you guys had going on, you still got the Cuts for Kids thing going the other day. I know you put in hundreds of hours, but all the officers did, and it was a hell of a job y'all did.
Thank you, Larry. So if I can touch on what he said, we're so proud of that. Cuts for Kids, if you didn't see it on Facebook this Sunday at Round Rock High School, we gave out 15,219 meal tickets. We stuffed 8,500 backpacks, roughly about $50,000 worth of school supplies, and we gave 751 haircuts free to the community, and that was all done through the Round Rock ISD and Police Department partnerships with volunteers. So thank you for bringing that up. We are proud of that, so thank you very much. I want to completely leave it open for questions now, but I want to close by saying there is absolutely no reason for you not to lay your head down and go to sleep peacefully tonight. Round Rock West is safe. There's some things that are just going to happen, right? Some things that are out of our control. But I can assure you, these officers are busting their rear out there on the streets answering calls, and they're going to get to you as fast as they can and as quickly as possible. And most of our guys, they'll give the shirt off their back to you if they can. They truly want to help you out. So if we're not doing something, let us know. You have the highest man in the district sitting here. If y'all want to get his card, y'all want to go above, I'm just an officer. There's sergeants. You have the lieutenant. If you're not happy with what we do, he'll fix it for you. So with that, I want to leave it, open the board up, or the meeting completely to questions.
I'm going to go ahead and we've had a lot of questions. I'm going to close it up. If y'all are going to hang around for a few minutes for like some one-on-one questions, because some people might have their questions
reluctant
answered.
Yes.
And we can do that with the microphone. From you.
Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate
Thank you, guys. Okay. Real quick, I made a couple of notes here. Joseph, somebody showed me a video about that Cuts for Kids thing, and I thought we saw a bunch of detectives working and you standing there watching. Oh, there it is. And, note, send tape to the fire department. Okay, got it. Got that, okay. So, like Joseph said, I was just making notes while he was talking here, and you guys can throw rocks at me or whatever you want, because I get those emails that say my car got broken into. I said, no, you let them into your car. Yeah. So there's no such thing as a break-in. When that happens, it's a let-in. And like he said, the majority of those are all let-ins in your cars. And what he didn't touch on were things like, where do you guys keep your garage door openers?
In the car.
Or your visor and stuff? Yep. So what have I got to do to get in your house? I just need to break the window of your car, push your garage door open, and I'm in your house. Right. You know? So hide it somewhere, you know? And your other equipment you leave laying up there, your laptop you leave laying in the seat, that's an incentive that even if your car is locked, you know, they can probably go get $200-300 for a laptop, they'll break your window. So just think, people, please. And we can prevent a lot of this. Our neighborhood is unique in the getting to know the neighbors part, because unlike a lot of other neighborhoods, well, society is kind of changing, but it used to be that everybody got up and went to work at 8 o'clock and the neighborhood was abandoned until 5 o'clock in the evening. We don't have that here. We have a lot of retired people. I work at home. I'm in my truck driving through the neighborhood probably 8 or 10 times a day. There's other people coming in and out. Just learn to look and look for things that just don't look right. And do not be afraid to call the police department. Like I said, they don't care. The recording, and Nikki made a good point about videotaping. And of course, the first thing you take is you get a piece of paper and try to run around to your TV and get behind everything and write numbers down. Take your camera, take a picture of the item, take a picture of this identification plate, go to the next thing, take a bunch of pictures, and then go sit down and write down all those serial numbers. So the response time, like you said, it depends on what's going on. Frankly, I've done a study. If you have an expired inspection sticker, it's 4 minutes. If you have an expired inspection sticker and your windshield wipers don't work, it's 2 minutes. Okay, so all joking aside, these guys are there, and if there's a burglary, they're going to drop your call that my car got broken into last night if they get a call that says there's a burglary in progress. Like you said, they're going to triage it. They're going to try to take care of the in-progress stuff, then they'll get to you. I think that was all I had. I thought about all this. Our meeting next month is going to be on the mating habits of the South African tree frog. So if y'all want to come, no, I'm just kidding. I haven't figured out what next week's meeting is going to be yet. Yes, sir.
Can I make a recommendation? I can give the fire department a hard time, but they have a new initiative called Take 5. They can come here, and I think many folks could probably use a refresher in CPR. And so I could make contact with the fire department. I think they could come up here, and if they could basically do like a certification course for CPR. If somebody is interested, I think that would be important.
We'll put out a feeler for that. That's a good idea. One of the speakers I've been trying to get back, we had him like 5 or 6 years ago, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them, was the people that to talk about our McNeil Bat Bridge and our bats we have down here, and they build the bridges specifically for bats. And it was a really interesting meeting, and we had a lot of people here, and I've been trying to get them back, so just haven't been having any luck yet. So, and if you have any ideas you think would be great, shoot them to me. Let me know. We're trying to fill up meetings. We do 10 meetings a year right now. We've talked about maybe cutting them back to quarterly, but all the people I talk to tend to want to kind of keep them on a monthly basis, so we haven't made any movement in that direction yet.
Mike, can you just
yes.
Little National Night Out? We'd love to.
Oh yeah, National Night Out coming up, October 4th, first Tuesday in October, and yes, Rick Atkins has promised that Round Rock West Park will be finished. Okay.
We'll have him here at the next.
And if not, we'll have him here at the meeting after that. So, and if those of you who didn't get the email, we've been working with the city for several months now, and we finally got them to agree to spend the money to cover our playground with the shade. So we're going to have a playground shade. A lot of people worked on helping with that, calling the city. Ryan helped out calling them and talking to them. We had a lot of people involved in that, so it's going to be really great. And I know somebody asked about a fence. Okay, one thing at a time. My next project is to try to get our streets paved and get our silent crossings going. So those are things I'm working on all the time. So thank you guys. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to continue to take these to the
What was that? I'm sorry?
tape the meeting.
Yes, we're taping them. We're going to be uploading them from now on.
Okay.
So seemed to be pretty popular last time. We're going to perfect it as we go, trying to do the microphone thing. We're going to try to find a multi-mic here so we can have it to the people that are talking and asking questions. But yes, they're going to be uploaded. And yes.
Speeding in the neighborhood, especially since school started.
Speeding in the neighborhood, 90% of the people that speed through the neighborhood live in the neighborhood. I promise you that's the case. You don't believe me, the next time you see one, follow them and see where they park. That has been, since I became president and became involved in this association 10 years ago, that has been the #1 topic, is speeding through the neighborhood. Now, we've been blessed that when the O'Connor extension, when the toll roads all got opened, our traffic went way down. Okay? A lot less than it used to be down Oak Ridge, Deepwood, and so forth. All we can try to do, we've tried to get the speed limits lowered to 25 miles an hour, thinking maybe if people at 30, they're driving 40, maybe at 25, they'll drive 35. It's kind of a lost cause right now, unless you do like me and you scream at them when they're driving by or something. Maybe take your phone out and act like you're taking a picture of them. No, don't do that. I'm just kidding.
Question, and this might be for the police officers. I actually just moved here from Falls Branch, and right before they have start of school, they end up usually sitting outside of the elementary schools and the middle schools to like just sit and show a presence that they're there. Does the Round Rock Police Department?
They're out there a lot. They are out there a lot, and I can share with you that because I got a ticket. I was going down Deepwood and I had my Bluetooth on and I was talking to my phone, not paying attention. Well, it's a hill, and going down toward Lake Creek. And as I got to Lake Creek, and it was Jeff Urig when he used to be on his bike, he caught me right around the corner and gave me a ticket. So that was not a cheap one, by the way. So yes, they do watch the school zones. They do watch them. Anything else? Not related to the other stuff. Yes, ma'am. Oh, door prizes. I forgot. Yes, we have how many door prizes?
3.
Okay, so hold them up and somebody draw a number.
I want to tell y'all too, for everybody that wasn't on email or the Facebook, I'm Cheryl.
This is Cheryl Hargrove.
I'm Cheryl Hargrove, and my husband and I were the ones that started the blue lights, and we purchased the first few.
Yes.
And then Home Depot donated 500 more. And then they gave us 200 and something more. I have a few left.
And I have some of the signs at my house if you want to email me or call me to come by and get a sign.
But if you didn't get it, if you're on email, you're not on Facebook, we collected $9,275 from those blue lights for that fit for.
And I probably have 300 that I haven't given you yet from the blue lights.
I was going to say, and those lights are yours. I don't want any blue lights.
No, I want the money. You want the money for them to give them to you.
I want the money.
I can't tell you one day that I have spoken with Vicki, Craig's wife, and she is so grateful for the support that this neighborhood has given her. She's obviously in a terrible place right now, and she has been so beyond belief grateful to the people in this neighborhood that have helped her out in multiple ways. She's got her doorbell wasn't working. We're fixing that. We're trying to fix a fence issue in her backyard because there is a security issue there. Just multiple things that people have been pitching in to help with, meals, all kinds of stuff, prayers, and she has wanted me to pass along to you guys that she is very appreciative of that. So don't forget, regardless of what happened here, we have a man that served the community for 32 years, and we have a family that has a big hole in their life. So we need to keep supporting them. So, all right, thank you guys. The police will be around for a while to talk to and ask questions. Oh, door prizes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get everybody out of here.
Okay, I think everyone is 466, so the first one is 789.
789.
That's you.
Got a winner over here. All right, who do we have next? 2 more.
783.
783. Nikki.
Okay, and I'll do the next one.
The last one. Is that a doormat?
It's a doormat.
Oh, that's
Fall,
pretty.
getting ready for fall. At 786.
786, there we go. Madison.
Mike, what's your address? I don't.
1706 Oak Ridge. I'm the one with the LED light. Thank you guys so much for coming.
I want to thank you.